They say she killed her husband in a drug-induced blackout. They say she doesn't remember a thing. They say the case is closed. But one man knows better, and the closer he gets to the truth, the more dangerous the lie becomes. Because the real madness isn't in her mind. It's in the plan she designed to escape forever. This is Side Effects. The film opens on silence and horror. An apartment soaked in blood, a single gift resting neatly on a chair. Then the story rewinds, 3 months earlier. Emily rushes to the prison with her mother-in-law. Martin is finally free. Back at their apartment, years of restraint collapse into raw, desperate intimacy. Later, Martin talks about rebuilding, mentions a powerful hedge fund contact who could restore everything they lost. Emily listens, but something in her eyes doesn't align. That night, Emily steps out of her apartment and gets into her car. And then, she suddenly accelerates, crashing straight into a concrete wall. She later wakes up in the hospital under the watchful eye of psychiatrist Jonathan Banks. He suspects the crash wasn't an accident and senses something is deeply wrong. But Emily says nothing. Jonathan hesitates, but eventually releases her with medication and strict follow-up appointments. Next day, during the therapy session with her psychiatrist Jonathan Banks, recalling how she met Martin in New York and married him 5 years ago, and how she previously saw Dr. Victoria Siebert but failed. When Jonathan speaks to Victoria, she explains that Emily's life fell apart after Martin went to prison. She lost her wealth, her status, and sank into severe depression. Victoria also reveals that Emily always felt invisible to her father, which only deepened her condition. When Jonathan mentions Emily's recent suicide attempt, Victoria suggests a new drug, Ablixa, claiming it has worked wonders on her other patients. Days later, while waiting for the train on a subway platform, Emily tried to take her own life once again. But just before she could jump, a security officer pulled her back. Terrified, she runs to Jonathan, explaining what she nearly did back in the subway platform, and insists she can't continue her medication, saying it leaves her dizzy and sleepless. So, Jonathan prescribes Ablixa, the drug recommended by Victoria earlier. In the days that follow, Emily seems transformed, and Martin is relieved. The couple reconnects and even make love, trying to rebuild what they lost. Then one night, everything breaks. Music suddenly explodes through the apartment, ripping Martin out of sleep. She moves through the apartment and set the breakfast table, sleepwalking. So, at her next therapy session, Martin voices his concern. He wants Emily off Ablixa immediately. But Emily refuses and insists that the drug gave her back her desire, her confidence, and her sense of self. So Jonathan adds another drug, hoping to control the sleepwalking. One day, Martin returns home from work trip and scents the apartment eerily quiet. A single gift rests on a chair, the dining table set for 3. And in the kitchen, Emily stands alone, slowly chopping vegetables with unnerving focus. As Martin steps closer, Emily suddenly turns and lunges, stabbing him knife after knife. Then, she calmly walks to the bedroom and falls asleep, thereby shifting back to the opening scene. An apartment, blood splattered across the floor, and a lone present on a chair. Hours later, the police arrive and take Martin's body away. An officer questions Emily, asking if her husband hurt her, but she insists she woke up and found him dead, and remembers nothing. Not long after, Jonathan arrives and is stunned to learn that Emily has been arrested for murder. When the district attorney questions him about her mental state, Jonathan suggests she may have killed Martin while sleepwalking, triggered by antidepressants. The district attorney warns that if Emily acted consciously, the case is simple, but if medication caused it, the responsibility could fall on Jonathan. Then he confronts Emily about the murder, but she remembers nothing and only says she never wants to take pills again. Desperate, Jonathan turns to Victoria, who assures him that therapists cannot control their patients' actions and that he shouldn't worry. Still, Jonathan fears Emily could be convicted, while his reputation also hanging loose. Elsewhere, Martin's mother believes her daughter-in-law and goes public. On television, she condemns Ablixa and the doctor who prescribed it. Her emotional plea stirs public sympathy, and the narrative quickly shifts in Emily's favor. Soon, Emily's trial begins. Her lawyer argues she was unconscious during the murder and must be acquitted. Supporting this claim, Jonathan admits Emily began sleepwalking only after he prescribed Ablixa and insists she poses no real danger. He also states that doctors cannot control their patients' actions and should not be held liable for them. After tense deliberation, the court finds Emily not guilty of murder, but orders her confined to a mental institution. Meanwhile, backlash surges. Jonathan's reputation collapses overnight, leaving his career and his conscience hanging by a thread. All because he was the one who prescribed the drug. Desperate to clear his name, Jonathan sets to investigate Ablixa and soon uncovers an article written by Victoria, exposing its dangerous side effects. Enraged, he confronts her, but she shifts the blame, accusing him of keeping Emily on the drug despite warning signs. Still searching for answers, Jonathan tracks down the garage attendant who witnessed Emily's crash, only to learn she had been wearing her seatbelt. Proof she never truly intended to take her own life. That night, another piece falls into place. A colleague informs Jonathan that while Ablixa's company is collapsing, its biggest competitor is suddenly soaring on Wall Street. The scandal now reeks of manipulation. Now, Jonathan begins to suspect Emily, not only in her husband's murder, but in the silent chain of events that led to Ablixa's collapse. And with that suspicion growing, he visits her once again, setting up a trap. Then proposes a dose of sodium amytal, the so-called truth serum. He says he'll ask controlled questions, record her answers, and use the footage to prove her innocence, assuring her the drug will calm her and gently put her to sleep. Hesitant but cornered, Emily agrees. Then the questioning begins. At first, she answers clearly. But just as Jonathan moves toward the critical questions, Emily grows drowsy and slips into sleep. Later, Jonathan presents the footage to the district attorney and delivers a shocking reveal. Emily was never given sodium amytal, but saline. And yet, she still fell asleep, exposing that she had been lying all along. So he demands her immediate arrest, convinced the truth is finally exposed. But the district attorney refuses, saying the case is already closed. Frustrated and forced to accept defeat, Jonathan visits Emily one last time, only to notice Victoria's name in the visitor log. Suspecting her involvement, Jonathan confronts Victoria, but the trap snaps shut instead. She produces photographs, Jonathan and Emily together in a hotel lobby, followed by explicit images of Emily in bed, thereby blackmailing him to expose him. Realizing he's been outplayed, Jonathan returns home to devastation. His wife has already seen the images, and she walks out. Jonathan tries to explain that he's been framed, but his wife doesn't believe him and leaves. That night, Jonathan receives a voicemail from Victoria asking to meet. When they do, she threatens to destroy what remains of his career if he keeps digging. But Jonathan doesn't back down. Instead, he lies, claiming Emily already told him everything. Then, Victoria loses control and screams at him to leave her and Emily alone. The next day, Jonathan goes to the mental institution and confronts Emily and threatens her with shock treatment unless she tells him why she killed her husband and how Victoria is involved. He then plays Victoria's voicemail, proving her connection to the crime. Jonathan lies again, telling Emily that Victoria is paying him to keep her locked in the institution and silence her, while taking all the money for herself. The words hit hard. Emily realizes she's been betrayed. Later, a distressed Emily rushes for the phone, desperate to call someone. But when she's denied, panic turns to anger. She begins screaming, forcing the staff to sedate her. Elsewhere, Jonathan calls Victoria, telling her he has an idea that could save both of them, and asks her to meet at the entrance. The next day, as Emily stares out the window, she spots Victoria outside. And for a moment, she feels hope. But it fades when she sees Victoria meeting with Jonathan instead. Jonathan tells Victoria that Emily wants to appear before a judge later that week, without explaining why. The news alarms her, but Jonathan quickly reassures her, claiming he has a plan that will benefit everyone. And soon they part ways, while Emily watches, growing more anxious about what they might be plotting. The following day, Jonathan returns with more medication and urges Emily to take it. But now, feeling betrayed by Victoria, Emily finally drops the act and reveals the truth. In fragments of memory, her past unfolds. How a life of luxury with Martin soon shattered the day the FBI took him away. Desperate and empty, she turned to Victoria for help, and soon their sessions blurred into intimacy. Later, Victoria taught her how to imitate mental illness, while Emily shared her knowledge of finance, learned from her husband, and how, together, they designed the perfect scheme. How they waited for 4 years for her husband to come out of jail to engage in their plan. How Emily would pretend to love Martin, fake depression, later murder him, and stage side effects from Ablixa, escaping prison and profiting by manipulating the drug's stock. Everything worked, until Jonathan refused to let the case die. Emily then admits she never took any drugs, that her suicide attempts were staged, and that Ablixa never affected her. Jonathan is stunned, while Emily begs him to free her, then offers him a better deal than Victoria ever did. Soon, at a new hearing, Jonathan declares Emily stable, cured, and harmless, to which the court agrees and releases her, but under his supervision. Free at last, Emily rushes to Victoria's office, where they reunite. And Victoria reveals their money is hidden overseas. But then she notices a device under Emily's clothes, and there she realizes that Emily has betrayed her. Soon, police arrive and arrest Victoria for fraud and conspiracy to murder. The next day, Emily enters Jonathan's office thinking she has found a new partner in crime, but only to be stunned in shock. Instead, Jonathan hands her prescriptions, ordering weekly urine tests, while warning her that failing to comply will send her back to the asylum as per the terms of her release. Furious, Emily lashes out, but Jonathan calmly reminds her who now controls her fate. As she storms out, she sees her lawyer and Martin's mother, who now knows the truth. Terrified, Emily runs, only to be arrested again outside, and later lost her mind for real. With that, the movie ends. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.